Hey there, welcome to episode 123 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I'm your host, Dan Hugo. I'm recording this at 5:25 p.m. on Friday, July 4th, 2025. Happy Independence Day. That's what they tell me. If you're not familiar with the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, let me tell you. The three words, the title of, or the name of this program, Cafe with two F's. Inspired by the Cafe Centro coffee shop, where startups start, a bit of a San Francisco landmark located in the South Park, very, very near what was then AT&T, now Oracle Ballpark. It's where Jack Dorsey was working on Twitter. Not necessarily the original coder, but that's another story for another time. It's where startups started. It was a small, simple little coffee shop with an actual park. You could go and sit at a sort of a picnic bench with your coffee, talk about startup ideas, something Vegas needs. So Cafe Centro did not survive for very long after the pandemic of 2020. Sadly, I just bumped into the microphone, sorry. So Cafe Centro. So Cafe, two F's. Genius. Many years ago in the downtown project days here in the greater Vegas area, actually downtown Vegas area, we had the Genius Lunches. These were gatherings of people that were participating probably in the downtown project, although I was actually just a spectator back then. I was working for Intel, traveling quite a bit. The Genius Lunch was an opportunity to get together with people who were doing things, not just talking about doing things, but doing things, taking a break to go have lunch or lunchtime. We're trying to bring those back. We'll see if we can get people to actually participate or if they just want to remain independent. And finally, impresarios, spelled with two S's. It's a less common spelling, but still in use. Cafe Genius impresarios are people that are doing things, making things happen. They're entrepreneurs pursuing their dreams, their nightmares. They're doing it. They're making it happen. And those are the sorts of people that would be great guests on this show if we ever do that again. Cafe Genius Impresarios. Welcome to the show. Hopefully today's title and topic, Ecosystem and Independence, timely. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, which further contains a summary, which I'll read to you, and the usual 4 links. I was thinking about grabbing a couple of relevant links, but it's Independence Day. As it is, I'm already recording this later in the day than I have been. It's a lazy Friday. It's a little warm. No rain and wind if you watch the weather for the Vegas area. But all that said, I'm going to read the summary and we can get on with the show so we can get on with the 4th of July. I'm going to guess you're not listening to this on the 4th. Hopefully you had a safe and reasonably uneventful 4th of July here in Vegas or anywhere else. Fun, but uneventful. The 4th of July is interesting this year. Does it still apply? Independence Day. Well, that is not a question we can tackle here. But given the day, I wonder if the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem favors independence over collaboration and elevation in early stages. In other words, the ecosystem and independence. The links for today's episode, as usual, the 2 for buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, DanHugo. The main page has my profile with a collection of links to my various projects, my various audio programs, affiliate links to some of my favorite coffee beans on Amazon. I think there are a couple more affiliate links towards the bottom for a Cash App and a Nasal Fresh MD affiliate link. I use that all the time, but not enough. And way at the top, you'll find some biographical information about me and then a link there as well to the posts section, which I have linked here as well. Buy me an update, published weekly on Mondays, Monday morning usually. It's a quick rundown of the previous week's audio programs and any news or announcements for the near term or the distant future, who knows. So check those out. There's no obligation to spend any money, by the way. This is all free. You can if you want, and any funds that come through either of these platforms, buymeacoffee.com or ko-fi.com, will go towards the purchase of coffee or coffee accessories. So if you want to support these efforts, there you go. Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com. The hyphen is next to the 0 on your keyboard, usually. Ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo. More interesting, perhaps, the Coffee Solo audio program, Ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo/posts. See the pattern? It is a program that is posted whenever, wherever. The topic is whatever. There's no fixed or target duration. So it could be about anything at any time. Could be any length. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle, hidden in a pita pocket. Coffee Solo. Check it out. I've talked about a few different things. I was going to create an episode last night, but I got to be honest, I fell asleep. Tired. One of the things I do talk about in that episode, not a lot, but I do provide some updates. My leg injury is coming along nicely. Moving around is tiring. I moved around quite a bit yesterday, walking, challenging my injury so that it recovers. And it just takes energy. I got to get back into the normal swing. So there you go. Not a big deal. This episode, I don't know exactly how it's going to go. It's kind of a stream of consciousness. I did write a lot of stuff down, but I don't know if it'll totally make sense. I'm not trying to equate the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the greater Vegas area with the Revolutionary War or anything like that. Much more about what it means to be insulated and isolated and independent, or if any of those are applicable. And I'll make the final point at the end. I've written that down. But essentially, it's easy to talk about. We're celebrating Independence Day today, but what do we got? What are we doing? Anyway, let's get started so we can get finished. It is a holiday after all. Symbiosis. Reminder, the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem has some things in common with a biological ecosystem, if you ever took ecology, which may be why the term is used, and used often by many people, most probably. It's very easy to throw that around. Community and ecosystem are becoming too, well, I don't like the word community in the way it is so easily assigned. Building community, we're building our ecosystem. That's really much more difficult to do than people think. Hey, we're building a rainforest on the Sahara. It doesn't work that way. One of the crossovers between the two, the biological and the basically economic, socioeconomic, is the notion of symbiosis, from Greek for together and living, symbiosis, and so living together, which comes in a few flavors. These are the official variations, I guess. Commensalism, where one benefits while the other is unaffected. Mutualism, both benefit. This is between any given people, two. It could be entities of any kind, I suppose, but it's usually a two-sided relationship. Parasitism, hopefully you know that one. One benefits while the other is harmed in some way. Just give me a little bit of money or blood or something. Now, competition, where neither benefits, I sort of think, if you're looking at it as benefit, you can say that there's potential for one to harm the other, depending on how you're competing for what. If the resource you're competing for is very scarce, like dinner, one might go hungry. So the competition may actually relatively benefit one because they get to live and the other one does not. Food supply. But anyway, if you're in competition, you're not really engaging with each other. So you're not giving anything to each other. So no benefit. Predation, where one benefits while the other dies. And neutralism, both are unaffected. This is obviously different than competition. Neutralism, I suppose, just means you're doing your thing and they're doing their thing and you don't really cross paths in any way. Can a viable entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem and its inhabitants flourish with more of the negative forms, more of the positives, or can they be oscillating a bit around some sort of a balance? Speaking as though we can typify every interaction and engagement, like everything will be a competition. No, probably not. Oscillation around some midpoint is reasonable, like commensalism maybe, or neutralism. And then you kind of move around that. Sometimes a little bit more parasitism, sometimes a little bit more mutualism, who knows? But unlikely though, since we have many characters with many motivations, we may even see some predation, from a business point of view anyway, somebody might want to actually put you out of business. So not just competition, but pro-action. Hopefully it's not the other form of predation. Although, this being Vegas, that certainly is a different problem. Each of us has had at least two, or variations, I should say, of a symbiotic interaction here in the greater Vegas area. Our ecosystem is thriving with all kinds of characters, especially if you are moving around in the so-called startup scene. I'm going to say mutualism sometimes. This is my experience. Mutualism sometimes, so both sides benefit, but not often enough. Commensalism often, that's where one side benefits while the other is unaffected. So usually, in my case, the other person, the other entity benefits in some way. And I am wondering, hey, weren't you supposed to call me back? And then parasitism on occasion. One benefits, the other is harmed. Remember that harm may be as seemingly simple as a waste of your valuable time, a waste of money, which is essentially the same thing, or maybe some uncompensated or undercompensated consulting time, which is worse than wasted. Like, hey, thanks for that idea. Here's your cup of coffee or dinner or something. And then they turn that into something much larger. Neutralism, though, that is the one to ponder today, where everybody's unaffected because you just steer clear. Now, we're not only going to ponder that today, but independence and neutralism kind of align. So going solo, I'm looking at the so-called tech scene, part of the so-called startup scene, and asking again, where is everybody? Discovery is still a problem to solve, I think, not only in Greater Vegas, but certainly in Greater Vegas. Should not some growing number of entrepreneurs and tech nerds, I'm a tech nerd, so I can use that, be coming out of the woodwork to participate in some symbiotic way in the startup scene that is so important and attractive a component of the global innovation hub in which we reside? Yeah, where is everybody? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% of businesses in Southern Nevada do not employ anyone. I discussed this in a previous episode. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce reports a similar figure nationally. So these are companies, small businesses, with no employees. A founder or someone who incorporates the thing. So a company exists, but they don't employ anyone. It could be a solo consultancy service business. Where did I leave off? A single person business, so I was reading this. I wasn't reading this. Like consultancies or services, maybe outsourced or subcontracted. So officially, they're not your employees. They're not necessarily getting out there and meeting up for a free lunch. And there's no such thing as a free lunch, by the way. Or the latest AI show and tell, or maybe something as simple as a curated lunchtime chat session, sometimes called the genius lunch. So these are people that are essentially doing their own thing. They don't have employees to deal with. They're not participating so much in the economy in that way. They may be doing zillions of dollars in revenue and somehow impacting the economy in other ways, but they're not employing people. They're not engaging with retail, perhaps. Maybe they are. So 80%, I think it's 81, 82. I checked in the context of that other episode I mentioned, which I don't recall which one it was. Anyway, we've talked about this. Often when reaching into the entrepreneur population that is not showing up for the free lunches and the gatherings with the same group of people every time, same people, different month, we encounter the usual response, if there is a response at all, that I'm really busy. This is probably mostly true, and I absolutely hope it is true. I hope people really are busy getting it done. But I would also wonder whether foregoing engagement within the ecosystem is actually healthy for the busy person in the near term, and both the busy person and the ecosystem on the whole in the long term. So yeah, independence. I'm obviously forcing the use of independence for today with regard to the ecosystem because that would be impossible. If we can look through history a little bit, right here in this country, the colonies, in writing and posting the Declaration of Independence and kicking off a revolution with a little bit of war thrown in there, with the goal to move away from distal parasitism. There you go. The crown and the British were way over on the other side of an ocean, and yet they're controlling everything we do here. Taxation, representation, all that. The distance was and is important. The big, beautiful ocean, as some might refer to it, between the colonies and the UK made a substantial difference, but there really is no such thing as a complete independence within an ecosystem such as one which we have here in the Greater Vegas area, especially if you live here. If you are physically here, perhaps you are here part-time, or you are doing business here and come by now and then, you have a first-order association. And you may have a second-order association if you benefit from businesses here. Perhaps when there is a huge difference between the entire ecosystem and its various moving parts and interesting inhabitants, and you, the relationship could be labeled commensalism, which is again where you might benefit, but the ecosystem on the whole is largely unchanged. You're not that big a fish. Do you interact with any individuals or groups within the ecosystem? If so, that commensalism may switch directions. Maybe they're getting something from you. Maybe you're getting something from them, but maybe not symmetrically. Maybe give way to mutualism. Maybe you both benefit in some way, both or you and each of your colleagues. Are you rich from each other? Are you rich or famous or both? Some in the ecosystem, I've definitely talked about this before, may want you to spend more time and money, of course, in this ecosystem. Is that commensalism or leaning towards parasitism? I will be specific when nobody knows Ben Horowitz. A16Z, that's Mark Andreessen, right? When Andreessen and Horowitz were both contemplating a move to the Greater Vegas area, I mean, they probably have multiple houses. They were just going to have houses here. I remember distinctly someone who worked for the city of Las Vegas in the economic development department being absolutely excited that Mark Andreessen was moving here. Now, Ben Horowitz, he's the Z in A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz. Ben Horowitz does live here. He donated a few Cybertrucks to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department recently, but I guess nobody's as impressed. But when people with money and fame, or hopefully both, are pondering participation in the ecosystem here by moving here, moving a business here, etc., it's very exciting. But normal people, show us what you got. The point is, it may take real effort to avoid engagement, to eschew meetups and gatherings, to consider anything or anyone outside of your entrepreneurial bubble to be a waste of time because I'm really busy. Could that effort be redirected for some mutual benefit between you and at least some of the ecosystem inhabitants, if not the system on the whole, over time? Is maintaining independence practical? Is it healthy? And is it even possible? I know I sound like a broken record. This is the part where I most definitely do sound like a broken record, but discovery is a real problem here in the Greater Vegas area. Across all sorts of verticals, and mitigating that problem is a group effort, believe it or not. Sure, independence sounds great, especially when solving some issues can be left to others, but just wait long enough, someone will figure it out. But do they? The ecosystem reports I've spoken about, including as recently as the previous episode of this very audio program, include mentions of this, that communication within the ecosystem needs work. Communication and discovery, two great tastes. It needs work, not waiting. And by the way, some aspects of it could be an application, a platform, some tools, right? But a substantial part of that comes from culture shift and a realization that you cannot keep to yourself in a healthy entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. You do have to talk to each other. You do have to super connect sometimes. Networking is fine, but if you can be a super connector within a burgeoning ecosystem, that's part of what will help it become more viable. It will help it flourish, or the inhabitants within will flourish. Not waiting. Don't wait for someone else. The value proposition is pretty simple for the lower levels of effort and participation. You don't really have to do a ton. Knowing the who and the what in your ecosystem can really come in handy to figure out the why and the how. And having a good calendar can help with the when and the where. So there you go. If you can go places at the appointed time and speak with people, find out what they're doing, tell them what you're doing, that's a really good start. Don't make it transactional. Pretend it's actually important to you. This is a recollection of classic journalism 101, by the way, the inverted pyramid. Who, what, when, where, why, how. I didn't put wow in there. That's you can take care of that. This should be reminding you that this is not new. but there is nobody out there doing this work. Not for you, and not yet. As a social being, it is valuable to engage with other humans, at the very least reach the who. Who else is out there doing this stuff? Who else is slaving away at home on their idea, not sure if it's going to happen, not getting enough sleep, barely scraping by? So on the other hand, I am saying, again, local media and local tools need to rise up to meet the need, where the Review Journal, The Sun, and other local outlets, the TV news channels that are now basically on the internet, are not really interested in this stuff. You got to be blowing up a resort, starting a professional sports team, committing a crime, maybe. All three. LinkedIn is becoming absolute slop. Please stop relying on LinkedIn. And Meetup and Eventbrite and similar sites like this simply do not cut it in a place that considers itself not only a smart city, but a global hub of innovation. If either of these were true, smart city, global hub of innovation, I don't even want to say it, global hub of innovation. If either of these were true, we should be escaping those boxes, not staring at them empty. So independence, isolation, and insulation is much more likely that people who believe they are independent of those around them, or at least most of the population around them, I'm too busy, except for the groups of people they interact with, ask favors of, offer favors to, learn from, teach. Other than those people, they're totally independent. Anyway, it is more likely there is insulation going on. Insular communities are a real thing here in Greater Vegas, and while they are difficult to avoid, they just kind of happen, they're not necessarily healthy. They're also not necessarily completely unhealthy. This has been a topic of a couple of previous episodes of this audio program. Basically, the problem with silos and sharing information between them, if not escaping them completely, is what we've talked about, and whether that's good for this so-called better Vegas. I mean, you can have a club, you can have an organization, like a nonprofit. Like I have a nonprofit. We do certain things, and if you're not doing those certain things, then maybe you're not going to hang out. But so that's like a functional insulation, but it doesn't mean we can't share information or talk about what we're doing or invite collaboration. We don't say, oh, you're not part of our group, so don't come by. But that does happen here. Not as often, but it could. So sometimes it's healthy, or at least it's reasonable. Other times, maybe not so much. Are you insulated? Are you keeping to a small group, maybe minimizing your interactions with others who are not in your small group? I've seen this happening here in the Greater Vegas area. I've seen it with my own eyes. It is not new by any means, and I try to avoid it myself. It can be tricky to break in to other groups. It is sometimes in their nature to remain insular. I mean, that's just the way it is. Like I said, I've seen it. It's like a hill to climb, and not everybody wants to climb that hill to find out who's over yonder. Oh, you guys are doing something very similar to us. Why didn't we talk to you 2 years ago? Well, because you didn't want to talk to us. These are real stories. There is probably a real problem when isolation is the word of the day. If you are isolated, or much worse, if others are isolating you and you are not diagnosed with a viral infection, in that case, isolation is a good thing. Quarantine if you've been exposed, isolate if you've been diagnosed. Don't forget. That's a problem. If you're being isolated by others. Isolation is not healthy most of the time, not for extended periods, certainly. And while I am no doctor, I am human, and I think we all know that getting out into the world, now and then at least, is good. This is part of a healthy ecosystem, to be sure. And I honestly don't know if there is a glossing over of potential issues. Are the people isolating themselves telling anyone? This may be a larger topic in the future. For now, though, independence can only get you so far. One of the things about Vegas, which is tricky, some people will say, oh, look, we don't have that turnover. Some people have lived here a year. That was an actual quote by someone who I will not name, but I had to slap my knee. Vegas is a place where people can just get up and leave. The Irish goodbye, as it said. When you are at a party and you want to leave, the Irish goodbye says you just quietly leave. You don't say goodbye. You don't make a big scene. You don't tell everybody you're leaving. So sometimes it's hard to tell if people are still here, much less doing okay. And we're bad at looking out for each other, if I have to be honest. So we celebrate Independence Day today, 4th of July, and we have celebrated each year for most, if not all, of the 249, not 250, years. Somebody in the news, somebody said 250 years. That would be next year since the Declaration of Independence. Now, it should be noted, though, that the Declaration was only the beginning of the beginning. It actually, obviously, it was working up to that. There was a small matter of resolving the disagreement over the Declaration with the Crown. They were not as into it. There was a little bit of a war, and then the real independence would begin. And soon, the new United States determined that independence also includes collaboration. So you're independent until you realize, oh, that's right. We got to work with our neighbors. We got to get close with Canada. We got to understand what's going on with France. We got to might have to send some Marines over to Tripoli. So there's all kinds of stuff that once you're independent, you realize, oh, we have to be a part of the world around us. I've commented on this many times as well. It is easy to post on LinkedIn and have a few high-level meetings and say that we are a global innovation hub here in Greater Vegas, that we're going to be the next Silicon Valley, Hollywood 2.0, any congressional session someday. I'm sorry, legislative session. Someday, maybe 2 years from now, maybe 4. How true is that? If you say it, it's just true. A declaration is the beginning of the beginning. By many measures, the easy part. Getting it done takes time and participation, some collaboration, and some education, especially if you want it to be sustainable. You got to make sure those 12-year-olds know what they're doing in 10 years when they emerge from higher education with a desire to participate in the even more substantial entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the Greater Vegas area. Maybe. So happy Independence Day. Ponder how we got all the way to 2024, what has transpired to get us to 2025, and what might come next. Is there going to be an Independence Day next year? And whether the words matter or the deeds do. And then consider where you want to participate in that bigger picture and in our local ecosystem and with the people all around in both. So yeah, I don't know if I made my point, but it is a holiday after all. Be more involved. Get involved locally. Understand what's functioning, how to be a better part of the ecosystem to make it better. Don't just, the I'm too busy excuse gets very old. It definitely gets you removed from my mailing list. But, who wants to spend time on people who don't want to spend time back? What is it if you're somebody's second choice or option, I think it is, then don't be it. Don't allow it. So if you're going to be participating in as an entrepreneur, by the way, I'm addressing the tech scene here. Some of the other entrepreneurial scenes here may or may not be so dysfunctional. Certainly entrepreneurialism in the Greater Vegas area is alive. Hopefully it's well. That's one of the reasons why the Genius Roundtable will endeavor, if it ever gets off the ground for version 2, will endeavor to reach more entrepreneurs and have more discussions about what's really possible and how difficult that might be, how we could make it easier if it needs to be, and so on and so on. So yeah, I don't know. Independence means some things to some people. I think independence is the power to take on more responsibility. So let's do that. All right. Happy 4th of July. And hopefully, if you are listening to this, you had a safe weekend and you are continuing your adventures. And we'll catch you next week.